The camera will record what it sees. It doesn't record what our eyes see. Our eyes will naturally adjust the color scale within the space so that we see more white than you realize is there or not there. The camera doesn't do that. It literally takes a shot of what's there and it records what it sees. In post-processing, we can adjust for the lighting, but there's only so much you can do.
Hey friends, welcome to the Business of Homestaging podcast. This is your backstage pass to business intelligence for creatives. Are you driven by your passion for design and decorating so much that you're happy to do it for free? That was me until I made 6 figures in my first year as a homestager. Yes, real estate staging is serious business with the potential for 6 or even 7 figures in revenue. Your talent is a great start, but building a profitable business requires so much more than creating beautiful spaces. Get the boost of confidence you need to monetize your talent, keep your phones ringing, and your pipelines full. Grab the popcorn as I pull back the curtains on the best kept secrets with inspiring conversations and success stories of challenges, wins, and everything in between. I've made so many mistakes so you don't have to. If this Nigerian girl can do it, you, my friend, can do it too. Let's go. Today, I have the amazing Lew Corcoran. Lew is multifaceted homestaging expert based in Massachusetts. He's not your average or ordinary homestager or decorator, but a storyteller, using design to tell stories, seamlessly connecting the seller's cherished memories with the dreams of buyers. With over 8 years experience, Lew is a professional combining homestaging, photography, and drone piloting into a seamless package. His commitment to excellence as an active member of various professional or as associations, including the Professional Photographers Association, PPA, and the Real Estate Staging Association, RESA, as a director on RESA's national board. Lew is driven by genuine curiosity and values strong relationships and community connections. So, Lew, welcome to the Business of Homestaging podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So, in your own words, tell us your journey, because you're also a licensed real estate agent. Help me understand where you've been and where you are in an elevator minute.
Expert guidance, exceptional results. Really, that's what you get. I'm providing guidance to help you get your house sold for top dollar in the shortest amount of time possible. And I do that through the staging and the photography and the drone pilots and the virtual tours and the floor plans in a nutshell. So I was in real estate. I had been dabbling in photography my entire life, and I had agents tell me I was taking great pictures of listings. So I decided to branch out and actually start hiring myself out to do the photography of listings. And in that course of doing photography, I'd come to realize that there was something missing. And then so it took me like a year or two to realize that it was staging. In other words, we were putting lipstick on a pig. It's really what you were doing. And so what happens is now you have, a staged property, and I like to use the term that web appeal is the new curb appeal. So if you go back to the old days of listing books, people would drive by a property. How does the property look on the outside? Is it something I want to see? Now everyone's looking online and looking at the pictures, and the pictures are not quality. The property's not staged. They flip on to the next property. They're not going to waste their time with a property that just doesn't show well. So staging and professional photography and listings helps to have a property show well. And of course, I offer a few other amenities to enhance that. I've done that through 3D virtual tours and floor plans.
Okay. Cool. So give us 3 key elements to be mindful of when staging with photography in mind. Because when I got started, I used to make the beginner's mistake. And it's not even a mistake. It's so much that when I stage, I'm thinking, okay, they're going to shoot it from this angle. So even if the bed skirt is not straight or whatever, then nobody's going to see that angle. You want to cut corners sometimes. But now in the age of HD photography, it shows every wrinkle, every scratch on the table, every little thing. So being mindful, I've learned to make sure that everything is just so before the photos. Also thinking about when they take photos, what are they looking for and what should we be mindful of as homestagers to make sure that we're setting the home up to be truly photo ready? Give me 3 key things for people to be mindful of.
When they're talking about staging a property?
Yes, thinking about photography in mind when they stage.
This gets into understanding focal points and so, what's the focal point of the property? What are the leading lines that lead to the focal point? That's, because that's what a photographer is going to focus on. What is the most important aspect of this space? Is it the fireplace? Is it the large windows with the mountain views, for example? So what are we looking at? What are our eyes steering towards? And that's how we look at things. When you stage a space like that, bearing in mind that a photographer is going to probably take images from different angles. And, when you're looking at, and I'll just use the fireplace example again, using the leading lines, which focuses into the fireplace, that if you put objects in the path of that vision, a good photographer is going to move that object or objects so they can get the shot that he thinks that was most beneficial to the property. I do that all the time. It's just what I do. But it's because I have the stager eye as well as the photography eye that, I can see, that's in my way. I'm going to move it.
Tell me I'm not one of those photographers that will move it and then not move it back because I have.
No, I put it back.
Okay, I've gone to a house that I stay. They actually moved the pillows from the sofa and they left it on the coffee table and it was there for the photos. It was in the photos.
Yeah, it's some photographers are lazy and they won't move a thing. I will. If I think something's going to look better somewhere else, I'm going to move it. Or if it's in my way of the photo shot or the photo shoot that I'm doing for that particular shot, I'm going to move it. Don't get upset with the photographer if he's doing that. I've heard homestagers get upset when that happens and don't, because, we're looking at through the lens. We're looking at the space through the lens, which you don't have when you're setting the space up. So, and then, yes, I do put things back after I move it.
Well, thank you. We thank you.
And the other big thing I want to impress is lighting. That's a big factor when we go into doing a photography or a photo shoot of a space, is how well lit is that space, which means, like you see behind me, the blinds are up, there are no curtains. I'm bringing in as much natural light as I possibly can. You don't quite see it in these photos, but the lights that you see that are turned on in the ceiling and then the overhead lights and over the counters, they're your typical standard incandescent bulbs, which are around 2,700K. And if I was shooting a space based on just the lights, it would come out very, very yellow. The camera will record what it sees. It doesn't record what our eyes see. Our eyes will naturally adjust the color scale within the space so that we see more white than you realize is there or not there. The camera doesn't do that. It literally takes a shot of what's there and it records what it sees. In post-processing, we can adjust for the lighting, but there's only so much you can do. So the more that you can bring in the natural lighting, and if possible, and no, we don't live like this, but bring in daylight LED bulbs. They're around 6,000K.
Thank you for saying that, because that's what I always recommend. And that's what we use in our lamps. But I've had pushbacks from some agents, like they like the warm lighting. I'm like, yeah, that's wonderful. In my house, I love warm lighting. But when it comes to staging and photography for a house that we're selling, it's visual merchandising, right? When they light up that store and everything looks amazing, when I go to get my makeup done at the makeup counter, they put this light on you. It's daylight so that you can see it natural the way you would when you're outside. So that's one thing that I always recommend, and making sure that the light is even, the same light is consistent throughout at least in the same layout.
Throughout the space, yes.
Right.
It's okay to have different luminosities in different rooms. It just depends upon the room, but throughout the space, you want the same. So the daylight bulbs, it mimics natural daylight. So it looks like you have natural daylight within the space. The shots are going to come out much more crisper and nicer. But no, we don't live like that. We live in an atmosphere where the bulbs are a lot more yellow because it's warmer. Into the Joké daylight bulbs, it's cooler. It's more of a bluer light. It's cooler and you don't get that feeling of warmth. So I carry daylight bulbs with me. So when I do photo shoots, when I see it necessary to change out the bulbs, I will. Actually, I'll have homeowners or have the real estate agent do it because they're going to go to work.
Yeah, I do. We do that too. We always have LED daylight bulbs that we switch out if we are in a room and everything around us and our lamps are daylight, everything else is yellow. We change it out to match.
Yeah. So, but in this particular shot you see behind me, that they're all regular incandescent bulbs because of the natural lighting and because of post-processing capabilities. I was able to drown out that yellow quite extensively, so that it looks a lot more natural on the inside. But when you walk in there, it's yellow.
Yes. So that's one. You said focal point, and they said lighting. What is the third thing?
Leading lines are lines that causes your eyes to focus into the focal point. So they can be horizontal lines, they can be vertical lines, they can be diagonal lines, or lines that converge together at a point. For example, you look to the best way to illustrate that is envision yourself looking down a set of railroad tracks that are straight, and it's sunset, and it just so happens to be sunsetting over the railroad tracks, where your eyes, the railroad tracks are bringing you right down to the sun that's basically, it's almost at the bottom of the sky, touching the earth, but the railroad tracks really draw your eyes to that sunset, just as an example. So that's what you want to look for when trying to stage a space is, what's the focal point of the space? What causes my eyes to focus on that focal point? So those are the three things that I would definitely recommend.
Thank you. Those are good insights.
Yeah.
And so what are some, we talked about from the stager's perspective. Now, on the photographer's perspective, what are some common mistakes you see in real estate photography and how can they be avoided?
A lot of mistakes that I see, vertical lines are not vertical. As you see in here, you see the vertical lines are vertical. Horizontal lines are not horizontal, but when you're taking a shot from an angle of a space like this, your focus is on the vertical lines. You don't have any horizontal lines. So you can see, like looking up the wall that's just to the left of the door entry, it's straight up and down. You look on the left-hand side, you look at the two ovens and you see the cabinets, it's straight up and down. Same with the windows and the doors and everything else within the image. The lines are vertically up and down. They're vertically straight. A lot of times I'll see, it's very crooked. They're either converging towards the top or converging towards the bottom, which means the camera is either set too high or set too low or pointed in the wrong direction. So I see a lot of that. I see a lot of, believe it or not, staged rooms that don't look very staged. We see that a lot out there. I see a lot of images where the blinds are all the way down to the bottom of the window. So all you get, when you take a photo like that is appearance of a blown out window when really the blinds are drawn down. Make sure the blinds are up and you want to let the light in. If you have heavy curtains, either take them down or push them off to the sides of the window. I understand a lot of times people are still living in the space. They want their privacy, and I understand the concerns. But for the photo shoots, make sure that they're off to the sides.
Nice.
Taken down. What else would I recommend? This is, the typical staging rules. You don't have a lot of knickknacks, and the rules of the 1s, 3s, and 5s at different heights certainly apply. It makes the image a lot more pleasing. But one thing, and I don't know how many people took the class on biophilia, or actually that was the guest note speaker at RisaCon Vegas 2024. We had on biophilia and neuroaesthetics and fractals. If you don't know anything about those, learn it. It's really what it is you're bringing nature into the space so that people, because now you got a really pleasing space. You have nature that's within that space. Yeah, you can see through the left-hand window in this photo, there's a bunch of trees out there, but you want the plants and the flowers and whatever else associated with that within the space. So make sure that that's there. So when I take a photo, they're going to see it. And people subconsciously will gravitate to stuff like that. They go, "Oh, what a nice spot. What a nice room. What a nice living room. What a nice family room." Because you have the plants in there. And going back through history, that's what our brains and eyes gravitate to.
Yeah, it's all, really fascinating stuff on how I was listening to that neuroaesthetics, the keynote address, and just taking away how design actually relates to our well-being. That was so interesting to learn. And it's
Yes.
just about how we communicate and how we commune with nature and how we respond to all those things. I love it. So now, given your background in real estate, how and your history, your expertise and experience knowledge, how has the market evolved over the years, particularly in terms of buyer expectations?
That's a tough question to answer because the market will change fairly regularly, from a buyer's market to a neutral market to a seller's market, back to a neutral market, back to a buyer's market, and it flips back and forth on a fairly regular basis. The pandemic kind of turned that upside down, and we went through a seller's market for an extensive length of time. Not enough houses were coming on the market. Buyers were getting frustrated because they couldn't get a home. Meanwhile, the prices were escalating. Every property was getting multiple offers, and oftentimes buyers would be outbidded by others, a lot of time cash buyers, and it was not uncommon to see houses to go for 10, 15, 20%, even more over asking price. And during this time, I think a lot of stagers got out of the business from the standpoint of they weren't getting any business. And sellers were like, why do I need to stage a property if I can get 20% over asking price? And once I put it on the market, the next day it's under contract. Why am I going to waste my time doing that? Yeah, there's a certain aspect, truth to that point. So you need to understand what market you're in when you're staging. I take the rule of, when we're in a seller's market, I'm going to be more focused on doing consults than I am going to be doing actual physical staging. Consults is, let's move this over here, put that over there, that sort of thing. Whereas if you're in a buyer's market, then staging becomes far more important for the property in order for the property to sell. We're headed more towards a neutral market. We're seeing houses sit on the market 2-3 months, and they're going for less than asking price. Some are going for more than asking price. Some are still going on a contract within 2 or 3 days of being on the market, but the market is transforming. It is changing. Hopefully, and then of course we had the interest rates jump up from the 2s and 3% back up to 7%. Now they're down around 6.5 at the moment, but that's fluid. It could change for any given reason. But we're starting to see buyers come back into the market. But again, we're still faced with there's just not enough houses on the market. On the flip side, thankfully, they're not escalating in prices like they have been the last few years. So now that we're going into more of a neutral market, potentially into a buyer's market, you need to start focusing more on staging a property in order to draw in the buyers in order to get the property sold rather quickly.
And I stand out from the competition when there are more houses on the market to buy. We cannot talk about real estate photography, home staging with somebody who does all of those things without talking about virtual staging, which is a huge topic. It's a hot button. It's a really hot topic in the industry. And I want to hear your take, your expert opinion about virtual staging.
I do virtual staging.
Okay.
Even though I'm a home stager. Virtual staging is not going to go away just because you don't like it. It's here to stay. And it's getting to where the average person can actually virtually stage a space on their own. It's like it kind of get to the point, I think, where they don't even need you. Keep that in mind. But there is a difference between a virtually staged space and an actually staged space. When you virtually stage a space and they see that picture online, that image online of that space, that stage, to them, they don't know that it's still vacant. They think it's really staged. It's furnished. But when they walk in, what do they see? They see an empty space, and now they're feeling like they've been duped. You don't get that emotional connection that you would get if the place was actually staged. So home staging has its place, and it will always have its space. And virtual staging, like I said, it's here to stay, and that's going to be more for the budget-conscious consumer. Yeah, I need to stage a space, but I just don't have the funds. Reality, they do. They just don't know where to find it.
They don't understand the value, the return on their investment that they're going to get from that. They don't see it as an investment. They see it more like an expense, right? Unless
I was just going to get to that. You need to show them the return on investment, the ROI. What are they going to get out of it if they spend, whatever it is it's going to cost them to spruce up this place? And it's not really a cost. It's an investment. And when you invest in your home and, in its marketing, you're going to get returns that you probably wouldn't have realized if you haven't done it. Think of, you go out and buy a new car, for example, and you go to the showroom. Is that car still wrapped up in plastic, or is it all nice, shiny, washed and waxed and vacuumed out and ready to go? Same thing with your house or with the listings. If people come in and there's nothing there, or it's not cleaned up, it's not depersonalized, it's not decluttered, it's the same thing. So I often use the term that a property has to be properly prepared, packaged, priced, presented, and promoted in order to sell for top dollar in shortest amount of time possible. So, and that incorporates, the staging, the photography, the virtual tours, and the floor plans. All that's incorporated into it.
Nice. So what is next for you in your career? Are there any big projects or goals that you're excited about for the near future?
AI.
Okay. How do you use AI every day?
I'm working on AI. It's a very useful tool. AI has actually been around for about, give or take, 50 years, believe it or not. But it's really starting to come into vogue in the past year or two. It's where you certainly notice what's going on. And a lot of people sitting there saying, I don't want to get involved in that. And I use it. I use it to help me write blog posts. I use it to help me create images that I wouldn't have otherwise. But now I don't, when I create images, I have it create watercolor images for the blog post rather than what looks like an actual image, like what's behind me, so that people will know that this is okay. It's more of a drawing, but it helps to bring into focus what the article is about. And it actually draws people's eyes into it. AI images from research shows that they actually bring in eyes better than an actual photo does.
Interesting. How is that?
Interesting. I don't know how that is. I don't know all the ounce of it. Just, that's what research is telling us. And so, I incorporate AI into my blog posts and into my writing. You can use it for a lot of things like your emails and whatever else that you're using it on. It's going to help free up time for you. One thing I would caution is make sure you proofread what's written.
Oh, yeah.
AI is not perfect. It's artificial, as the name states. But, once you get good at prompting AI what you want it to write, and of course, you want to use the same platform because it gets to know you and what they expect of you and what you expect of it. So that, when you use it, constantly or all the time, I use two different platforms all the time. So I go back and forth between the two, but they've gotten to know me.
And what do you use? What platforms do you use?
I use Bing. It's called Copilot. There are times when it's like I get frustrated with it. And the other one I use is Deep, which is DEEP, which is the opposite of shallow, Deep AI.
Oh, interesting.
Others out there like ChatGPT and Google has one that's called, I think, Galaxy.
Okay.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, I'm embracing the AI as well because I actually enjoy writing. I love writing by myself, but it's getting to a point where I do a lot of stuff like this podcast. I have to write the script. I am doing my blog posts, have to write the script, newsletters. I'm finding AI to be very, very useful. And it's like you said, it's learning my perspective, my voice, my preferences, even what I do on a daily basis. It's injecting home staging and this and that into what I'm doing. So I'm really enjoying and embracing the AI of things. To talk about how long AI has been around before we even all started getting into, my husband was working on artificial intelligence at Microsoft like almost 20 years ago that he was working on this. So now it's like more prevalent and everybody is into the thing. It's interesting to see how far we've come and curious to see how far we're going to go with this AI thing. People are afraid that it's going to take their jobs away from them. There will always be the need for humanness in
Yes.
everything that we do, especially what we do with staging. Yes, there's virtual staging. And I am a proponent of it's not all or nothing, right? I feel like there's room for virtual staging and there's always going to be room for real in-person staging because, for example, I have clients who are like, they don't want to spend all that money staging, but they still want to invest in staging. So I'm like, yeah, what if we do partial stage and then you can artificially, virtually stage the rest of the rooms? And I think it's useful for that. Yes, when people walk in, they can still see that there's nothing in there. It's disappointing, but it's not all or nothing. And I think if anyone wants to get on board with doing them, I learned how to do it, but I decided that it's not something that I want to spend my time doing, but it's not something that I'm completely against as long as it's being used correctly.
Yeah, I would say, if you're looking at doing a hybrid, make sure the staging is focused on the primary rooms. Research tells you it's what the family room, the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, and the bathroom. The rest of the spaces don't need to be staged. But if you're going to do virtual staging and staging, the hybrid, focus on the main rooms that people are interested in. You can do the virtual staging for the other rooms. I would say make sure you have a poster of that space with the image of the virtual staging. So when they walk into that space, they have an idea as to what this space is about and, how they can incorporate their own furnishings into that space.
Interesting. So that's why it's nice to see home stagers and somebody who has experience in space planning doing virtual staging because it brings a totally different perspective. I've walked into a house before when they had virtually staged and then they decided they wanted to in-person stage it and we went to do a walkthrough. And what we saw online looked like a king size bed. Well, when I got into that room, like there is no way we're putting a king size bed, anything in this room. And the owner was like, yeah, but we used to have a king size bed. I'm like, that's fine because when you lived here, it was fine. You can do whatever you want. Now we want to showcase it in a way that is more functional. And we can, if we do a king size, it's not even going to fit. Just smush it, jam it into the room, shut the door and walk away. It was nothing else was going to fit. So it's good to see somebody who has the eye and the training for furniture placement, space planning, you understand scale and proportion. And therefore, when you go and impose photos into empty rooms as in virtual staging, it makes sense. It can connect in the way that you set it up. And you're thinking about all the traffic patterns, the size of the furniture and all that, which is missing, honestly, in most cases when it's done by pure photographers who are amazing at what they do. But when it comes to like that scale proportion, it just gets thrown off completely. And it can be like, a person that's trained eye, you're like, what is going on here? All this furniture, it's impossible for them to fit in this space. And that's what we're trying to show with staging. Like your furniture can fit, your lifestyle, the way that you live can fit in here. But if we're not mindful of that in virtual stage, you can completely throw that off. So how do you stay inspired and creative in all the things that you do?
I just keep going for some reason. It's just, because like you walk in the spaces, like, for example, there's one behind me and this particular, it was a townhouse and it was immaculate throughout. And it just, you hold on to those photos, you keep it in your portfolio because you refer to them. Oh yeah, I remember this space. And yeah, this is how we got this turned out the way it did. And so I have the photos, obviously, of the different spaces and the different rooms, and I use those as a guide. Now I did a consult on one. I'll throw this out. This was a different townhouse. This was several years ago. I was brought in to do a consult and then the photo shoot on this particular property. A property had been on the market for 6 months and didn't sell, didn't get any offers, nothing happened. So I come in, did the consult. We do this, we do that. Down in the basement, he had a storage area and I was rummaging through that. Found the telescope, found an old rusty, dusty lantern and a couple other things. I said, yeah, we could use this. He goes, really? Well, yeah, absolutely. So, we put the telescope in the guest bedroom. We pulled the table out of there, put it into the hallway, which is along the stairwell, which helped to separate the space between that and the couch. So you had, okay, this is a hallway. I get it now. So we did a few adjustments and came back and did the photo shoot. And then the homeowner stopped me before I started the photo shoot. He says, I got to ask you something. He says, I looked you up online. I says, well, that's a good thing. And he says, I compared photos you had with the photos of other home stagers. And I noticed one thing. I said, what's that? He says, every house you did was different in terms of the staging on the interior. Whereas these other stages, every interior was the same. Why is that? I says, I'm not knocking home stagers who have inventory, but this is just a prime example. And I told him, I says, it's because these home stagers who have inventory, that's all they have. On the other hand, I don't carry inventory. I'm going to use what's in the house and I'm going to recreate the space using what you have. And I use him as a prime example. Is what did we do in your property? We brought out the old telescope. We brought out the old rusty lantern. We moved the table around. We moved a few other things around, and opened up the space and made it look more presentable to someone walking in. He says, cool, go do the photo shoot.
That's funny.
So I did the photo shoot, handed him off to the agent the next day. He got him online that day. This was a Thursday. Open house was Saturday. Monday, it was under contract. Whereas before it sat on the market for 6 months for no activity.
Oh, okay. Huge change. The way I think about your, treasure hunting, the creativity is boundless, right? When it comes to staging, you have to just think about so many different ways that you can repurpose, reuse one thing. I used to be like that, narrow-minded. When I had my warehouse, this is my stuff. But when I had other people come in to work with me, suddenly I'm seeing them use the things that I would use in a kitchen. They're putting it in the bathroom and they're moving things. And I'm like, wow, so many different ways to repurpose and reuse these things. Even though I carry inventory, no two staging is alike because we may use the same sofa, but we're constantly changing out and moving, and nothing is set in stone. Like, oh, you only use this artwork in the bathroom, or you only use this. We have things that are versatile that can move around and travel around the house without anybody questioning, like, why is this here? So I like that.
Yeah, it is multi-purposing it's, to me, that it's like, you see something, you go, aha, I know what to do with this. And I've told homeowners, I says, you can get 100 stagers in here and you're going to get 100 different ways to stage a space. Everyone has their own unique touches and personalities that they want to add to the space. That's just the way it is. And there's no real right or wrong answer. It's just, everyone's different creative minds will bring out different aspects within the space.
Yeah.
So,
But I said
creativity, when you see something, realize that you can probably do something with it, and just think about what you can do. Don't focus on, like you said previously, well, this painting's just for the bathroom. I did a property, had it gone on the market for give or take $2 million. And, so we brought in, you had to rent furniture out and there was this big painting. And we had planned to use it in a particular spot and couldn't do it because it was too big. We found a spot for it, which was, put the stairwell went up halfway, you had a platform turn, it went up the rest of the way. And that wall was more than big enough for this painting to go into or, to be attached to. So that's what we did. So don't be afraid to refocus or repurpose something into a different spot than you had originally planned. It's just the way things work out.
Yes, unleash your creativity. I love it. And there is one thing that I have to do before I let you go.
What's that?
Remember that inspirational message that you had for us at the leadership meeting in Las Vegas that ended up becoming like the keynote address, because we listened to it at the table and we thought everybody agreed and thought that this was too good to just keep to the confines of the table. And you ended up to, use it as the address at, the opening night. So I'm going to read that now to leave our, listeners.
I bet you won't have the same impact if I gave it, but
I'm sure. Okay, so why don't you go ahead?
No. I want to hear your version. Go for it.
No, please do it.
No, I'm not going to do it. You do it.
Okay.
Hear your version.
You were gracious enough to send that to me, so I'm going to read it now, and I'm going to leave our colleagues with those thoughts. That message is very warm. So here goes. As we gather in the vibrant city of Las Vegas for RisaCon Vegas 2024, we're not there now, but it's still relevant. Remember that each of us is a vital thread in the tapestry of homestaging. Our creativity transforms spaces into dreams. Our vision turns houses into homes, and our passion brings life to every room. So here is my inspirational message for all the dedicated homestagers attending this convention. This is from Lew Corcoran talking. In the artful dance of staging, where every cushion, color, and curve tells a story, you are the choreographers of space, the weavers of dreams, and the creators of first impressions that last a lifetime. Your canvas is the home. Your palette, a harmony of textures and tones, and your masterpiece is sanctuary that whispers, welcome home. As you share, learn, and grow, may you find inspiration in every corner, joy in every challenge, and community in every conversation. Here is to the homes you transform, the hearts you touch, and the heights you reach. Shine bright, stage with heart, and elevate every space. Let us embrace this gathering as a celebration of our craft, a symposium of shared wisdom, and a milestone in our journey of making the world a more beautiful space, one staged home at a time. Welcome and enjoy RisaCon 2024. So how did I do? I know I didn't do it as well as you would, but hey, give me some props.
I'm okay with it. I mean, everyone's got their take on it, and you did a very good job. Thank you.
Well, thank you for leaving us with those inspirational words, and also thank you again for meeting with me today and spending time. I had fun.
I did too, and it was a pleasure speaking with you this afternoon.
You too.
Yes, I've known Shell for 7 or 8 years, but we had never met.
Oh, interesting.
So the first time we actually saw each other was last, I think August or September, when I was appointed to the board. RisaCon 2024 in Vegas was the first time we physically met.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. I didn't know that.
And I'm very pleased to be reappointed for another 3 years. I don't know.
Me too. Yes, I love that, and I get
to cause people to do that. But I'm tickled pink. I'm very happy. I'm pleased.
I think you are a great. I don't know what the board would be without you. Honestly, I've been there for this year, and it's been like Lou, Risa, synonymous. Like you could never leave. I don't know how you're gonna leave.
I don't either.
Exactly.
I think about that sometimes. I go, at what point do I say goodbye? I don't know if I can.
You don't need to. There are no goodbyes. You don't need to.
No, of course not. And I'm enjoying myself on the board. And it's.
Well, we're enjoying you, and thanks again. I hope you have a lovely, lovely day and the rest of your week.
Yeah, I do too. And you're in Seattle, right?
Yeah, we're in Seattle.
Little known fact: I was born in Seattle.
You were? What part of Seattle?
My father's in the service, and we moved around a lot, so it just happened to be in Seattle at the time. And we had actually, went back when I was in the 4th, 5th grade. We went to Port Angeles. He got transferred to Port Angeles, so we spent a couple of years there. Now, I said that to tell you this story. I was at a dinner a couple of years ago here in Massachusetts with some friends, and this lady walked in, kind of halfway through the dinner and joined us, which is fine. And she too was a photographer. And So she got on, so she was in, and everyone else knew I was a photographer. So she was introduced to me as a photographer. And at some point during the dinner, she got onto the conversation of taking photos of the stars, the night skies. And she indicated that she took the images from the top of Hurricane Ridge. And I stopped her right there. Hurricane Ridge is a mountain, and Port Angeles is at the base of that mountain. From there, you can overlook Puget Sound and the Straits of Juan de Fuca. And I used to ski on that mountain when I was a kid.
Wow. Cute.
I stopped her. I said, excuse me, Hurricane Ridge, as in Port Angeles in the state of Washington, that Hurricane Ridge? She goes, yes. How do you know?
I love it.
Oh, so yeah, originally from there, and I lived all over the country, and yeah, it's just there's laughs to be had wherever you go.
Nice.
All right, see you tomorrow at the board meeting.
I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.
All right, have a good one. Enjoy.
Bye, Lou.
You've been listening to the Business of Homestaging podcast. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. For more business resources, or if you need help getting started in the world of homestaging business or any business for that matter, or you're looking for growth strategies, reach out to me on thebusinessofhomestaging.com so we can create a roadmap to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and keep doing all the things. Until next time.